A56B ADT Theory 1. List 6 typical subject areas that should be covered in a site induction. Entry and exit to site. PPE requirements. Speed limits and traffic routes. Fire alarms and assembly points. First aid arrangements. Restricted areas. 2. When working in a confined area or space, name 3 hazards that can occur. Poor visibility. Fumes, dust. Noise. 3. State the purpose of a retarder and the possible consequences of not using it when required. Slows the machine using engine braking. Reduces wear on service brakes. Not using it can overheat or damage brakes. 4. Where should the dumper operator's manual be kept and why? In the cab or easily accessible location, so information is available when needed. 5. State the purpose of a heated body. Reduces material sticking. Helps material discharge safely when tipping. 6. What determines the minimum distances that any part of plant and machinery has to be kept from overhead electricity lines, and explain why a distance should be kept. Voltage of the line. Type of support pole, metal or wood. Weather conditions. Prevents arcing and electrocution. 7. Before leaving the dumper for a rest break, after parking and switching off the engine, what final action must be carried out? Why? Isolate the machine. Prevent unauthorized use. 8. If setting up to work in a pedestrianized area, state 3 factors that need to be taken into account. Physical barriers. Noise and fumes. Dust and public safety. 9. State 2 requirements of using a stop block or earth bank, berm, at a trench discharging point. Indicates where to stop. Prevents the machine from entering the trench. 10. Apart from the operator, who else may need to use the machine operator's manual? Supervisor. Maintenance staff. Transport low loader operator. 11. Give 2 reasons why the dumper operator should have an understanding of the type of spoil being transported. Correct tipping location. Safe driving and stability. 12. Give 2 examples of where the work at height regulations may apply to dump trucks. Maintenance of the dumper. Refueling operations. 13. How can a qualification or card benefit a plant operator? Proof of training and competence. Better job prospects and pay. 14. Whenever possible, who should decide the positioning of the dumper when being loaded? The loading operator. 15. Operators should lower the skip fully before driving away. Give 2 possible consequences if this is not carried out. Reduced visibility. Machine instability or hitting overhead objects. 16. Why should tailgates not be fitted when transporting bulky or rock-type material? Material can get stuck. Causes machine instability. 17. When tipping a load, the center of gravity of the machine changes. What effect does this have on the dump truck? Center of gravity moves upwards and backwards. State 2 actions to avoid accidents. Tip slowly. Tip on level ground. 18. What is a good working practice regarding the use of the retarder pedal during travel and what factors can affect the performance of the retarder? Use the retarder early to slow the vehicle. Performance affected by speed, weight, slope, angle. 19. Name 3 purposes of the raised lugs on the tires and what can happen to the dumper if the lugs are severely worn. Grip, traction, steering, braking. Worn lugs reduce traction, steering and braking control. 20. The operator is asked to tip material into a new trench. State 5 different requirements that must be considered or implemented before tipping commences. No people in the trench. Ground conditions assessed. Permit to tip if required. Risk assessment completed. Banksman present if needed. 21. If checking the oil level using a dipstick, why must gloves be worn? Prevent contamination of controls. Protect skin from oils, dermatitis. 22. The operator has to use a new type of dumper, that is a new type of dump truck that they are unfamiliar with. What do regulations, that is PUA 98, and other guidance require the operator to have? Sufficient information, instruction and training. 23. Name 3 ways in which an operator can minimize their impact upon the environment whilst using the machine. Switch off engine when idle. Use lower revs. Maintain the machine. 24. On startup, the air pressure on the machine is low. What actions must the operator carry out before work and during work? Wait until air pressure is fully built up. Monitor air pressure throughout work. 25. What is the minimum distance allowed near open trenches when traveling with a dumper and explain why? More than the depth of the trench. Prevents collapse and tipping. 26. What are the possible outcomes of facing prosecution for not complying with legislation and regulations? Dismissal, fine, imprisonment. 27. The operator has been asked to drive the dumper onto a transporter trailer, who is responsible for the loading operations and state 4 actions to be considered by the operator. Before loading commences, low loader operator responsible. Check ramp condition. Check ramp grip. Check overhead hazards. Check ground conditions. 28. Larger dumpers use a turbocharged engine. What is the normal procedure before switching off the engine after working, and what happens if the procedure is not followed? Allow engine to idle to cool. Failure can damage the turbo. 29. When working in a confined area or space, what danger can be present with an articulated dumper with regards to steering? Pivot point can hit walls or objects. 30. Why must the seat belt be worn at all times even with the cab door closed? Keeps operator in seat. Reduces injury in case of rollover. 31. The rear axle units on most dump trucks pivot on the chassis. Explain the reason for pivoting axles. Keeps wheels on the ground. Improves traction and stability. 32. During work, the engine starts to overheat. Explain the danger if someone tries to remove the radiator or expansion tank cap. Hot pressurized fluid can burn skin. 33. Explain the difference between interaxle, longitudinal, and transverse axle differential locks. Longitudinal locks front and rear axles together 6-wheel drive. Transverse locks left and right wheels on front axle. 34. Why should a dumper be refueled at the end of the day? Reduces condensation in the fuel tank. 35. If the machine is being traveled or working on the public highway, including adjacent pavements and verges, the Road Traffic Act applies. What type of license and which class should the operator hold, and what is the minimum age allowed? Being 21 years old if over 7.5 tons. 36. What problems and hazards can soft ground cause to a loaded dumper? Loss of traction. Machine could sink or tip. 37. Why plant operators are generally regarded as safety critical workers. Machines can seriously injure or kill people. 38. What is regarded as the most productive position for the dump truck to be in when being loaded by a wheeled loading shovel working from a stockpile? Approximately 45 degrees to the stockpile. 39. The function or job role of a dump truck operator, when transporting materials, is to transport loads safely and efficiently. 40. On articulated dumpers, steering is achieved by actuating a hydraulic ram which is controlled by turning the steering wheel. How does the engine supply the oil flow, and what happens to the steering when the engine stops? Engine-driven hydraulic pump. Steering power is lost when engine stops. 41. Who should determine the maximum load that should be placed into the skip of the dumper? The dump truck operator. 42. What is the definition of, or how can a hazard be described? Something that can cause harm to health, life, property, or the environment. Help. 43. What is the purpose of a ROPS cab? Protects operator in a rollover. 44. A dump truck is classified by a manufacturer as a 30-ton machine. What does this mean? Maximum capacity is 30 tons. 45. What is a possible consequence of using a tire with a deep cut in the sidewall? Debris can get into the cut and cause rapid deflation. Loss of control. 46. When would the skip safety strut or support be used? During maintenance. When working under the raised skip. 47. Why should the body of the dump truck be raised slowly, carefully, especially with wet or sticky material, and what would be a consequence if this was not done? Prevents sudden release of material. Avoids machine overturning. 48. When parking the machine at the end of the shift, name 3 places where the dumper should not be parked. Entrances or exits. Walkways. Slopes. 49. If a load has to be tipped on a slope, what may happen if the load is tipped downhill and why? Load may stick in the skip. Machine could tip over. 50. Give 1 advantage and 2 disadvantages of rear-mounted cameras. Advantage: see blind spots. Disadvantages: mud glare damage. 51. If the operator has to top up the hydraulic oil, state 2 precautions to ensure cleanliness of the system. Clean around the cap before refueling. Use clean equipment. 52. When traveling on wet clay, what effect does this have on the dumper? Reduced grip. Loss of control. 53. An operator has been asked to transport materials from one site to another using the public highway, for which the Road Traffic Highway Act applies. What effect can this have on the activity? Weight limits apply. Correct license required. 54. In what situation does a hard hat not need to be worn when operating a rear tipping dumper? Truck has FOPS protection, falling objects protection structure. 55. Name 4 different types or levels of disciplinary actions or sanctions that can be applied by employers and judicial bodies to operators of plant who do not comply with or follow legislation and regulations. Verbal warning, written warning, fine, prosecution, imprisonment. 56. Give 3 possible reasons why dump trucks should not stray off the designated haul routes. Protect prepared ground. Avoid underground services. Avoid overhead hazards. 57. If the operator has loaded the machine onto a transporter trailer on behalf of a driver, state 3 actions that must be carried out before they leave the cab. Apply parking brake. Shut windows and doors. Remove the key. 58. What is the recommended good practice in the activation of the exhaust brake? Activate when foot off accelerator. Slows engine and machine. 59. What should you do if the dump truck starts gear hunting? Change gear manually according to conditions. 60. Under what conditions can the parking brake be used as an emergency one-off brake, and what should occur post-use? If engine or main brakes fail, brakes must be inspected and repaired. 61. For dump trucks equipped with compressed air reservoirs for braking, why might they need routine? What is the recommended safe working practice whilst carrying this out? Remove condensation. Prevent freezing in winter. Only trained personnel with PPE. 62. What are the advantages of using inclinometers whilst tipping? Warns operator of slope angle. Prevents tipping. 63. Name 3 ways that an operator can contribute in ensuring repeat business with the client or principal contractor. Be punctual. Work safely and professionally. Follow method statements. Rams. Pre-start checks. Enter cab to release bonnet catch using 3 points of contact. Walk around clockwise. Start from the steps to the door. Gloves to be worn during this exercise. Steps are secure and clean. Look up at mirrors. Are they fitted, not damaged, and clean? Visually inspect the front wheel, from the tire inwards. Check tread condition. Side walls are not cut, tires are inflated, rims are not damaged, wheel nuts are all fitted and there is no evidence of them being loose, no oil leaks on the hub. Carry these checks out on all wheels and tires. Lift bonnet and check coolant level, transmission oil level, and hydraulic oil level. Check general condition of the engine for oil leaks, fuel leaks, or wires chafed or damaged. You may have to climb onto the wing to check some of these, using 3 points of contact. Visually look under the engine when you have climbed back down, looking for evidence of any leaks. Check the condition of the body and lights as you walk around to the opposite side of the truck. Climb up again using 3 points of contact. Check the engine oil and visually look for leaks and wire damage. On completion, climb down and continue with the checks on the front wheel as before, mirrors, etc. At the rear of the cab, look at the fuel tank and hydraulic pumps. Look at the hoses for any leaks. Visually inspect the articulation point to ensure it is clear of debris. Check the prop shaft for damage. Look down the inside of the rear tires and follow the same checks as previously on the rear tires. Inspect the tipping ram for leaks and damage. Walk around the rear inspecting the camera, rear lights, and pins fixing the body to the chassis. Check the rubbers on the rear axles. Walk around to the step side and carry out the same checks to the tires, wheels, and tipping rams. At the rear of the cab, visually inspect the hydraulic hoses and the articulation point. Turn the isolation key on and enter the cab. Volvo ADT running check. Sit in the seat ensuring mirrors are set for you. Put on the seat belt. Check gears are in neutral and the park brake is on. Start the engine. Use the preheat if it's the first start of the day. Once the truck has started, let the air in the tanks build up. Check the gauge. Once the pressure has built up, sound the horn. Check the lights work. Look around ensuring the area is clear of personnel. Use mirrors and look around. Select drive, forward, then release the park brake. Move forward gently and apply the foot brake, checking they work. Turn the steering to the left and right, checking the steering. Stop and apply the park brake. Select neutral. Check for overheads. Raise the skip, looking for any leaks. Lower the skip. Continue with your daily duties.